Imagine you're walking alone through a dark forest, and even if you were in a group, that couldn't save you, not in these parts of the jungle. You feel watched, because you are. There's a feeling of deep primal fear resonating within your bones. Then you stop, because something stops you. 8-foot-tall figures emerge from the shadows of the trees and caves. Their dilated pupils reflect the light through the darkness. Those eyes don't belong to anything alive today, but they did once belong to something that once conquered and ruled Africa 5 million years ago. A beast so powerful, if it existed today, it would change everything. This is a Dinopithecus, a prehistoric giant baboon, bigger than any primate alive today. Stronger than a gorilla, faster than a leopard, the bite force of a crocodile, and smart enough to hunt in coordinated groups. Some say its roar could be heard over a kilometer away. Some people believe it was strong enough to tear apart a car like a cardboard box. And a few researchers argue it may have been the most dangerous primate to ever walk the earth. But how much of that is truth, and how much of it is myth? Today, we're traveling 5 million years into the past, and discovering the truth behind the legend of the terrible ape, Dinopithecus, the prehistoric monster that would dominate our world today, if it ever returned. Dinopithecus means terrible ape, and that's a pretty accurate description, because if you were on this guy's I want to eat you list, then yes, it was a terrible ape. Modern baboons actually do already have one of the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom, and the only known bite force test was done on a small olive baboon, weighing approximately 12 to 15 kilograms and is roughly 2 to 3 feet on all fours, and 4 foot standing with a bite force of 1,300 pounds per square inch, or PSI for short. That is the equivalent bite force of a gorilla, even though gorillas weigh 200 plus kilograms more than them. Also, 1,300 PSI exceeds the bite force of a lion, and that's only a small species of baboon. The biggest species weigh 30 to 45 kilograms and are 3'3" at the shoulder when on all fours, and 4'9" fully standing up, meaning even they possess up to around 1,600 PSI. But I mean, if you compare those to the Dinopithecus, it makes them look weak. With a skull about 2 times bigger than a modern baboon's, its bite force would have been immense, likely strong enough to cleanly bite through bone, with a bite force potentially exceeding 3,200 PSI. Baboons and mandrills are commonly associated with demons in ancient Egypt and Asian cultures. While Dinopithecus wasn't as heavy as modern gorillas or as built, what they lacked in size, they made up for in speed. Weighing up to 150 kilograms, they possessed a tall and wiry frame, with strong, dense muscles, similar to a modern chimp's physique, but a lot taller, and would likely chase after entire herds of their prey in large groups, then outpace them and tear them apart. With their intelligence combined with unmatched speed and bite force, and a savage and relentless nature made them true demons. The prey of the Dinopithecus included small animals like antelope, bush pigs, gazelles, lizards, and young zebras. They also ate roots, invertebrates, and small primates. Their intelligence would likely be similar to modern baboons in having very high animalistic intelligence, meaning they had high understanding of social structures and adaptability. Being about 3 times the size of modern baboons likely played a significant role in their lifestyle, giving them the upper hand in hunting, causing them to be more strategic and nomadic. They were largely terrestrial and well adapted to savanna environments, but they likely required woodland areas for different food resources and safety. But how could apex predators like this go extinct? Now, there is some scientific debate about whether the large canine teeth of the Dinopithecus were used for hunting or mainly for self-defense and social displays. I believe they were used for both, and here's why. Apparently, most modern baboons stick to eating the same sort of diet in the one area, but recent studies have shown that it is likely Dinopithecus, like the modern yellow baboon, required a mix of fruit and other resources found in more varied habitats. This only strengthens the nomadic idea, right? And I mean, it makes sense why they were bigger and required different things to survive. While traveling to other forests, the Dinopithecus would hunt animals in the savanna in groups. They would sleep in the one area to protect themselves from predators that they could beat in sheer numbers. Once they got to the woodland, they needed to get the specific fruit, root, or creature, and once at this destination, they would have all of the resources till next season. This theory is only strengthened by how a lot of resources aren't available year-round. So, they would have to travel from place to place in a seasonal cycle. Also, if they stayed in one place all the time, they were so big they would have depleted the food for other animals. Once they had finished their journey across the savanna, then they would use their fangs for social structure purposes in that time. Then, when they got to a new area, if a different species of primate had declared their territory, the Dinopithecus would use their fangs to assert dominance and scare off the creatures or eat them. In their time on this planet, the Dinopithecus as a species lived through humid climates that became increasingly arid and cool ones. This drastic climate change caused the forests to reduce in size and the grasslands to expand. But if this climate change affected the environment so much to change and adapt, why wouldn't it have caused the Dinopithecus to as well? The alleged idea of their extinction is that it was caused by the climate change, but something about that just doesn't add up. I believe there was something more to that than everyone believes. Evolution takes thousands of years to occur, and these guys were on the Earth for 3 to 4 million years. But even if the Dinopithecus didn't evolve to adapt physically, couldn't they adapt behaviorally and habitually? Their bodies already were built for adaptability. Their fangs are already multi-purposed. If the forest progressively declined, I believe then that they adaptively would lead to a more carnivorous diet. In modern baboons, hunger can be a main driver in necessities such as food, forcing them to act in ways to benefit the group, like hunting in packs to ensure sated hunger for the community. Either that, or the hunger would drive some of the Dinopithecus to savagery and insanity. But it is not known how fast or slow the climate change really was, and how fast this affected food availability. I believe that the food shortage, largely to begin with, wiped out a great number of Dinopithecus, and the rest became more carnivorous and strategic. Because of their immense size, they needed more food than most primates, making them less adaptive to climate changes that affected food and resources drastically than other primate species, meaning it would be easier to hunt in groups to overwhelm herds of small animals for food. More of the Dinopithecus population would decrease due to starvation, a lack of nutrients, and being killed by predators. One of my most interesting findings is a New York Times article talking about an early form of humans called Homo erectus 400 to 700,000 years ago, systematically killing a species of giant baboons. Known as Theropithecus oswaldi, researchers found bones of young Theropithecus oswaldi in a South African cave. The scientists claimed the pattern of bones and their placement suggested Homo erectus may have systematically killed these baboons young as part of an early ritual. Though this species of giant baboon was not directly related to Dinopithecus, their appearance is. What if these sacrifices began with the remaining Dinopithecus? Then, once they were extinct, the Homo erectus moved on to Therapithecus oswaldi, because of the fear and legend the Dinopithecus had scarred them with. Maybe an even earlier human species before Homo erectus killed the remaining Dinopithecus. This would make sense of the long history of the fear around baboons' demonic appearance, and the myths surrounding them. Maybe it stemmed from Dinopithecus that had become savage and crazy, attempting to devour villages of early humans. And the only way to successfully kill them was a plan. And that plan was to find their young and eradicate them. There is controversy in the scientific community on whether Homo erectus did sacrifice young giant baboons or not, and argue that the bones could be explained because the Therapithecus oswaldi could have died due to climate and ecology changes. They said because they were bigger, they would be less adaptive than modern baboons to these changes. But wait, that sounds familiar. Almost the exact explanation used to describe the extinction of the Dinopithecus. This theory I have put together does make a lot of sense. It connects the dots where others drew the line. The deeper I go, the more possibilities I'm starting to see for the extinction of the great ape Dinopithecus. Now, here's where things get interesting. Most of the controversy in the scientific community on this topic is based around the only things they know for sure, which is very little. And the things they don't know, they tend to attempt to cut down those ideas, because they think it makes them look dumb, like they don't know enough about the topic if they let it be one. Part of their reputation is only solid fact as well, so they actually can't approve anything else unless it's factually proven. The truth is, modern scientists base everything off as much solid fact as they can get, but when there's barely any fact, it's hard to get answers, which is why people theorize to fill in the gap. Now, don't get me wrong, scientists do theorize, but in the most conclusive, likely most accurate and basic way. And usually it does make sense, but usually there is also more to the story. What about the bite force? Like most prehistoric fossils, no muscle tissue could be found for the Dinopithecus. This means scientists can't get a direct measurement of its bite force. The Dinopithecus, having a skull nearly twice the size of a baboon, along with a large jaw and 5-inch canine teeth, does indicate an immense bite force. The exact PSI number is unknown. The idea of the bone-crushing bite isn't unrealistic, just unmeasured. But the speed in hunting, could it outrun a leopard? Probably not. But could it sprint fast enough to overwhelm prey in groups? Absolutely. Modern baboons already do this. The raw herd for a kilometer? Is there proof? No. But large primates can produce deep resonant calls that travel far. So the idea isn't impossible, just unconfirmed. Even if the roar wasn't as loud, sometimes deeper resonant noises can be scarier. The canine teeth debate. People argue whether the huge canines were for hunting or display, but the truth is, in primates, the line between weapon and signal is blurry. A tool can be both. My theory about seasonal movement, it actually fits what we know about modern baboons. But we don't have enough fossil sites to confirm it. So it's not wrong, it's just unproven. Diet. Were they hypercarnivores? Probably not. But during climate stress, primates do shift diets, so a more aggressive meat-heavy phase isn't unrealistic. But what remains genuinely unexplained? This is the part scientists don't like talking about. Why did the Dinopithecus really go extinct? Climate change explains some of it, but other primates survived the same shift. So why didn't Dinopithecus? The human connection. There has always been large myth and fear associated with baboons. There is evidence pointing towards early humans interacting with giant baboons, and this would explain the fear behind them, but we don't know how far back that fear goes, or whether it really did start with Dinopithecus. The idea that early humans targeted young giant baboons? Controversial, but not impossible. And if Homo erectus did it to Theropithecus waldi, who's to say earlier humans didn't do it to Dinopithecus first? There is also a very large fossil gap. Maybe early humans burnt the bones of a lot of Dinopithecus skeletons that they found in some kind of sacrifice. This would explain some of it, but it still remains one of the bigger mysteries. For a species that lived for millions of years, we should have far more remains than we do. The reasons for extinction are very broad. Maybe the last of the Dinopithecus weren't killed by humans, but rather bigger prehistoric creatures, like saber-toothed cats or giant crocodiles. While these beasts likely weren't the cause of all of it, as well as climate change and early humans, it would make perfect sense if they did contribute to the extinction through eating some of the Dinopithecus, especially if they were separated from the central group, starved, or dying. Where are they? Why are they missing? What happened in those final generations? We don't know. For now. Now, though not everything in my theory can be proven, it does go into depth where others believed there wasn't enough evidence to continue. But for me, this stuff almost perfectly adds up. And that's why I'm sharing this theory with you guys, because I have a feeling and I know that there is more to the story. Because it's up to us what we choose to believe, what we question. Because most of this stuff, even the scientific suggestions, explanations, and theories behind an animal that lived 5 million years ago's extinction are flawed. Even today, we don't know much about the giant squid. 70% of the ocean remains unexplored, and that's why it's up to us to question the truth and find it for ourselves. It's up to us to discover and attempt to explain the unexplained. And that's my mission, to share my discoveries and ideas with the world. So remember to make up your own mind, because you choose what you believe. Thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic day or night, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And click that notifications bell so you know when my next video comes out. Tristan Exposes out. I'll see you next video.